Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver and Marr. Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver and Marr.
It's almost time, kids. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the Horror-thon. And remember the big giveaway at 9. Don't miss it. And don't forget to wear your masks. The clock is ticking. It's almost time.
Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver and Marr.
Hello, and welcome to another episode here at NerdVerse.
Hi.
I'm J-Dub, that's Boop.
I don't know why that was so startling.
What?
We just
Right, you
time for life.
you reminded us that we were very, very late.
Yeah.
But
Listen, when you get buddies in a room together, it's hard not to talk.
right, and so, but glad to be talking on air now with you, first of all.
Hi.
But also soon to be talking with our lovely guest this evening, because I too am sort of again a guest to you.
Yeah.
This month is your month.
Yeah. I did subject you to a lot of things this month.
And I enjoyed most of it. Yes. And
We'll get there.
similarly, you know, when we talked about Friday the 13th, there's some things because I think it was 2 nights ago,
Yeah.
we had an interesting conversation where or maybe you were talking about Nightmare on Elm Street. Was that the one you were being hard on about, like,
Which one?
just this series?
No. That was Friday the 13th.
Okay.
Because I do not like Jason Takes Manhattan, but I can watch it. That is the difference.
We'll take it.
We'll get to it.
We'll take it.
We'll get to it.
A lot of fun, not a lot of sense in that series. So we've both been subjected to some things, and so because it is the holy Halloween month,
The holiest
of course,
holiest.
Boop
Hey,
is in
Brennan.
charge. We're both spooky people, and we apparently know spooky people.
I know spooky people.
But we take specific time at this lovely slice of the year to shine a light on that spooky season and
true.
our spooky loves. And so this is actually the last episode for that.
Not the
for
last time
now.
we're gonna be spooky.
No.
We still gotta get all of my spooky brothers in this dang podcast.
Yeah, so it's going to happen intermittently. We obviously have a lot of fun with this. Folks have been really enjoying it, and so the conversations will continue. It's just that October gets all of our attention for spooky, because that's what it's all about. And so next week we'll be back to some Star Wars conversations, which is interesting. Like, Star Wars is such
I
a
know,
slight,
right?
like, so much of our podcast, and it's like getting back to
Yeah.
it. It feels like we've taken a vacation from it, but
Small bit of Star Wars right now. Andor's good.
Andor is good.
I do, however, miss feeling joy.
Yes, we're not going to talk about it until January, so if you're
Yeah.
wondering until then, it's good.
It's good. It's very good. It's got
You
some
heard it
intense
here.
stuff. But it's good.
You know what else is good?
What else is good?
Our podcast guests.
Is it? Okay.
No, our guests make our show, and we wanted to have a good one. And really, this is a sort of part 2, because
Sort of.
you were hanging out with our guests just last night.
Legitimately,
Yeah.
like maybe 24 hours ago, I was chilling with Gerry.
So much like they never left, with us this evening is none other than the Gerry himself,
Gerry.
the Cannon Junkie. How are you doing, sir?
I'm here.
You
I'm
are
doing, well,
here.
okay. I'm here. I'm doing good. It's great to have part 2. I'm glad we had that tiny little recess of about 24
Yes.
hours, and we're back, which is good.
Here we are.
Because
Yeah,
you
just
know,
about.
much like the Ghostbusters in 1989, we are back. We're back.
Exactly.
You know, and we are ready to believe you. So yeah,
in much like Ghostbusters 2, in an okay sequel, right?
God. We're not gonna have Ghostbusters
I quite
therapy
enjoy.
right now.
Listen. we're gonna have to we got to be careful because I will go on diatribes about
true.
the legacy that is the Ghostbuster canon. Okay,
These best
Like, anyway, I'm not just a Star Wars canon junkie.
No. Much like we are not just Star Wars fans, I think a lot of people have learned a lot. We've shared a lot of spooky opinions this month, and so
Yes.
if
Opinions, a lot of fun stories. More
Yeah.
to come.
Some of the best
Didn't-
opinions are spooky, is what that's
Yeah.
what I hear at least.
Absolutely. So
I read
that's a
anyway.
shout out to Bombad Cast, of which Gerry is one half of, probably the saner half, depending on the
know.
night.
No,
Depending
Jerry's
on the
out.
night.
No, that show only
but,
works with 2 unhinged hosts. That's what
There you
that's
go.
what I'm saying. Like, yeah.
That's why
um,
I'm only allowed on once a year.
But yes, and so last night Bombad was live with Boopenheim here, getting spooky, and so it's just spilling
Yes,
over
it-
into this evening. So after you're done checking this out, go check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we
Why not?
we tell some scary stories in the dark.
Yeah, it
little.
was the lighting was
was-
adequately dim and moody for your evening.
slightly dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had no candles lit. I probably should have lit some candles, but
We
it
have
It's
was
okay. We've
adequate.
got plenty.
It was
We
adequate.
have
Ceremonial.
plenty.
as well as a Bath and Body Works flannel scented candle.
Ooh,
Man, flannel is
nothing
good.
nothing
best
like I
smell.
like flannel. I'm not sure like the smell of flannel. Like it's just the smell of whatever your house smells like is what I think my flannel smells like.
So I
so-
don't know why they call it flannel because it doesn't smell like flannel.
No, it
It doesn't-
smells
It's just supposed to smell like
kind of
fall.
spicy.
Not even fall.
It's a winter candle.
It's like they
it
shoved a
smells-
bunch of flannel sweatshirts in like a blender with some
Yeah.
pumpkin pie and like a little
It's
bit of
one of
cinnamon.
those. It's one of those like
Breakfast
smells
smoky.
you can't like. I'll say I can't. There's so many smells that if you ask me what it is, I don't have a direction or parameter. Like I don't
No.
know. It smells like stuff.
It smells
Right.
like hugging your grandpa.
That's not a thing. That's not a thing.
I'm sorry.
I hug my
you
grandpa all
didn't-
the time. It's fine. It's what
Anyway,
You can hug Gerry. I'm sure he smells like a
I
grandpa.
smell like a grandpa.
I'm
sometimes.
sure I
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
hug Gerry, and it will happen eventually.
I look like my grandpa, legit. Like I am like how there's the one grandkid who looks like they're a carbon copy sometimes.
so-
Like there's the one kid that's the carbon copy of one of the relatives. I'm a
Yeah.
carbon copy of my grandfather.
So supposedly, my mom and aunt always said it. Supposedly, I look like my grandfather. I've always had just too much facial hair and
It's
hair in
true.
general, like to compare. But there's a
Having-
particular picture they're always like, oh, that's you if you joined
Yeah.
the Navy.
I've
It's like,
seen that picture,
I'm a
and it does look
bearded
exactly
version
like you.
of him.
there you
Yeah.
go.
Wow.
There you go. You're the
That's
emo
insane.
grandpa.
Change
Emo
your
bearded
bio
version
right
of my
now.
grandfather. Yes.
Emo grandpa.
Typically the emo haircut is what everyone had in the 40s. They just slicked it back.
It's true.
Exactly. It's
You
just
see all the
repetition.
Indiana
repetition.
Jones
Dan.
movies where they're like hair's falling in their face and stuff,
Exactly.
Right.
like that.
Speaking of the
Gotta
40s.
fight the Nazis.
No,
Not like
that
the
is
Nazis.
actually a good transition. What's the word? Segue.
There you go. Yeah.
There you go. Speaking of the 40s.
So you
You're
are Luke in this scenario. You are touring us through this haunted house of a legacy this evening. We're chatting about, and I made bold claims in the description and on Twitter and whatnot. But I think what you'll find as we talk is that Hill House,
Hill House.
the titular haunted house of Shirley Jackson's novella
Sorry.
of
Yes.
1959.
Thank you for vamping
Um,
while I find the passage.
There you
Yes.
go. It greatly inspired many a spooky story that came
So
after.
many.
And although it's inspired by supposedly a haunted house in and of itself, Shirley Jackson just took some creative liberties to tell a story that has remained interesting today. Like literally 4 years ago, getting another retelling of her classic story, but also
So faithful.
continuing to see even recently in films like inspirations of Hill House. And so bold as it may be, I really have come to find that Hill House is the haunted house that inspired them all, I think,
It created the genre.
if at least fictitiously.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
excited about that.
Yes, because as I said on Bob Medcast last night, I can actually read. This may surprise you. And in reading the book, The Haunting of Hill House, you find some incredible story beats that go on to inspire years and years and years worth of stories. And if we could get a little pretentious here, I'd like to start off this podcast with the introduction to Hill House, which has been quoted in almost every single adaptation. So that'd be chapter 1. No live organism can continue for long to exist sanely under conditions of absolute reality. Even larks and katydids are supposed by some to dream. Hill House, not sane, stood by itself against its hills, holding darkness within. It had stood for 80 years and might stand for 80 more. Within, walls continued upright, bricks met neatly, floors were firm, and doors were sensibly shut. Silence lay steadily against the wood and stone of Hill House, and whatever walked there walked alone. And that is how to start a book in the best way possible.
Ladybug and Katydid dreams.
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
You got all the atmosphere you need there. And it's quoted in part every time, I think, because
that is such a raw opening.
No matter what you do with the rest of your film or product, that at least sets a mood.
Yes, absolutely. Hi, Graeme.
Yeah.
I see you in the chat there.
And so so this it's a story in and of itself. If you've only seen as recently the Netflix series, or if you've very good, very good. Not a one-to-one adaptation, but I think that's okay, because really nothing has been a one-to-one adaptation, I'd say, of the book.
You have one of the closest ones, which is the 1960 something haunting. 63 haunting, which came out just a few years after the book. The book came out in 1959, and it was pretty darn successful. It was originally published under a man's name. Don't ask me what the name is because I can't remember at this point. And
Shirley Jackson.
No. Peter something, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I know a
Jackson?
male Shirley. So,
and at the time, this was a pretty common practice for women who wanted to be taken seriously in literature. It kind of had to be published under a man's name. It's honestly something that still happens to this day, but you have authors who are so incredibly talented, like Shirley Jackson. And even before her, you get the author of Frankenstein, who's
Mary Shelley.
Mary Shelley, thank you. She wrote Frankenstein at 19 years old.
Which is incredible to think about.
And she created, almost single-handedly, the horror genre. And you have Shirley Jackson, however many years later, creating the haunted house genre. Like, these stories are so influential and so incredible, and it's easy to forget that they were created by women, and a lot of the time they don't get the credit for what they've done.
Unfortunately.
And most likely didn't get it in their lifetime, at least.
Absolutely not.
Unfortunately, with a lot of them, which is sad.
Yeah, especially with Shirley. She passed away not very long after, like in the 60s, and so
she wrote some other fantastic stories, by the way. The Turn of the Screw, which was published in a book and it was an anthology book, and We Have Always Lived in the Castle, which is being adapted right now. I haven't watched it, but we'll see. You finish your sentence, please.
So literally, like this comes out, and the film adaptation of this would have also released prior to her
Both of
passing. But a lot of what's continued, even if you just take the direct inspirations, because we could really go down a rabbit hole of every haunted house story stems from this in a way. But even if you wanted to be more direct, there's still 6 direct inspirations that have all been fairly well received and
well received by
successful.
most.
And so it's like, seeing none of that, but the legacy that she left with the amazing storytelling, that's where, like, I'm sure we all see often on social media, like harping on, being careful with your voice and the influence you have and everything, because that influence can live longer than you. And so it's very important to be mindful of what you put out there, and clearly coming from a place of passion for what she was doing, it has had an effect on its lasting power for sure.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yes, Graeme, that is very true. It was
Yep.
created by a queer woman.
Horror's always been feminist. I don't know what to tell
Honestly,
people. Like, it's always been the best
Yeah.
at a lot of representation and progressive. I
horror.
hate to say it's progressive. It's just, it
Yeah.
should be acceptable ideology, but
I mean, going back to Frankenstein, the film Frankenstein was directed by a closeted gay man who put a lot of his experience into the movie Frankenstein, which got ripped to shreds later in the editing room to make Frankenstein more of a horror villain.
monster.
Exactly. And yes, it is okay to refer to Frankenstein as Frankenstein when you were talking about the universal horror creature. Okay, I don't want to hear any of that. Actually, Frankenstein's monster. Okay, no, we're talking about the universal villain.
We don't have time for wet blankets. We don't have time for wet
Exactly.
blankets. It's fine. Whatever.
Get in the
Hang
dryer.
out on the line.
Just come on, chill the heck out. Just
get out of
go
here.
pick some
There's
flowers.
no place. Go.
Yeah.
So, Gerry, other than just being an amazing person who we like hanging out with, being here is in part because of your, well, as much as you two talked about last night, your fascination with horror and haunts and whatnot, and a lot of those stories of paranormal activity having and taking place within the walls of some home or manor, or I guess what could be described as historical landmarks in some cases.
A rectory.
And so for you, is a lot of your experience coming into this conversation more with the real life stories? I'm trying not to, I keep doing air quotes. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
At least I did it off camera, but it still caught me where it's just like, I'm sorry. But
well, you kind of have to, for some people to ingest this, you have to put that warning on the label, because it's just, some people need that, and that's fine. And it's also, you're very kind and say that's a very kind way to say that I did no research except for watching an 11-minute video before I came on. So
that's fine.
Look, we've been there on our own podcast, buddy.
I have the Wikipedia open.
I do that on Bombcast all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all good,
right? I've never even seen a Star Wars.
I'm just browsing Wikipedia.
I just watched Star Wars Explained. Yeah, it's fine.
Right, exactly.
Good plug.
Yeah, no. So I have, again, we talked about last night, we have a very deep fascination, Boop and I, a lot of us, of weird paranormal things, especially hauntings and things like that. And I have seen The Haunting of Hill House. It was just 4 years ago that I watched it. There's a lot of that series that will stick with you, frankly. And even though it was, and the video I was watching, they talk about how Mike Flanagan said it's more of a remix than an adaptation. And they kind of talked about the different things he did with it. But I'm very fascinated about how Shirley Jackson took apparently all of these different real life cases and accounts, and even I think some of her own experiences and things of that nature and things like that, and kind of molded it all into this overarching story, which is, I think, why it stands so true to this day. You know, it's why it still rings so true and is so scary, because it's the real life accounts are always scarier to me than ghost stories, because ghost stories can have a nice finish, a nice tie on the, you know, the end of the boat. It doesn't follow you from the house from there. Sometimes in life it follows the person from the house. Sometimes it stays only at the house, doesn't leave, but the person, it just like the person doesn't have a nice little I get out of jail free card. You know, these things are, yeah, it's more horrifying when it's real. And so that's, I think, part of the magic of it.
Yeah, and like earlier this month, we talked on Bombadcast about the Sally House, which is one of those really famous horror.
Can you imagine what it would be like if she was alive when that stuff came out?
God, we would get so many good stories.
Well, so not to take you off of Sally House, but I was thinking about that earlier because, like we've alluded to, so to just directly say, Shirley, my brain keeps going back and forth. Shirley was directly inspired by an actual investigation from the 40s. And so like thinking of all, like back when that was definitely an interest, but not necessarily a funded or acceptable interest. Like if you were on the outskirts if that was your field of study, whereas now, I mean, you know, if you've got a camera and the gumption, you've got a show. Like there's so much around paranormal investigation now, and there's so many stories and there's so much added since then that like imagining, because like Mike Flanagan, who directed and brought to life the most recent adaptation of Hill House and has done a lot of other great horror, he often seems inspired by old horror. He's going back to old pieces like Hill House, and so many more. And so it's like imagining someone like Shirley being that person, but you know, it's just like, actual investigations of Sally House. Okay, here's a story. Because it really seems like, what if, you know, instead of just studying for the sake of clinical science, what if these people believed? What if, you know, there was something more at play, like adding to the mythos of paranormal investigation? I think is it like you said, it's that magic piece that made that so good.
It's the secret sauce.
It's the Thousand Island for sure.
It's the Mac sauce on the Mac.
Exactly.
So, yeah, we can start.
I also agree with Piglets. Piglets.
Piglet has a lot to say.
We've been watching a lot of spooky stuff, so they've been very spooked and clingy.
It's so cute because whenever we watch a horror movie now, Bubba will get up on the couch and like lay between us and bury his face into one of our shoulders.
He's not a horror movie pup.
I don't know why y'all are doing this, but I love you anyway.
Right.
So yeah, let's go back to the very, very beginning, if we could. You know, before the book happened, one of the many stories that inspired Shirley, it feels weird calling her by the first name, Miss Jackson.
Sorry, Miss.
Was the haunting of Borley Rectory, which is claimed to be one of the most haunted houses in England. I forget exactly where in England it is, but there was a very famous investigation that was very heavily covered in the local and international newspapers by what's the right word for Harry Price? A paranormal investigator. He was a parapsychologist, one might say. Harry Price was one of the most prominent paranormal investigators of that time. Like, if you're a fan of Jeff the Talking Mongoose, which I very much am.
Oh God,
he investigated Jeff the Talking Mongoose.
Oh, is a legend. Oh, that's one of the most interesting cases.
Oh,
in my
absolutely.
opinion, because like that's like what an extra dimensional being almost of some kind.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Some
Anyway,
might think he is a tulpa. Some think
Mr.
that he is.
Mixoplex.
I love Jeff the Talking Mongoose so much.
That's
You've
so good.
heard
Y'all
me
are
talk.
adorable. I've heard you talk of it. Yes.
You've heard me
Yes.
ramble about Jeff the Talking Mongoose.
Yes.
But yeah,
Listen.
Go ahead.
It's one of the cool. That's one of the most. It's not as scary, but it's got scary elements. I feel like that there needs to be a Jeff the Talking Mongoose movie. Frankly, it's like baby's first horror.
With that
you know?
with that title,
Baby's
I don't
first
know how
tulpa.
it hasn't happened yet.
I plan on getting a Jeff the Talking Mongoose tattoo at some point because I love that story so much.
He's
But
got
yeah.
lots of good quotes too.
Honk honk, that's one. I love it.
He's funny. Anyway,
So, The Haunting of Borley Rectory was something that took place over 20, 30 years. It followed a family that were stationed at the Borley Rectory, a home for priests, if you do not know what a rectory is. Basically, the head of the church lived in a little house off to the side of the church. That's a rectory. And I will pause for the rector jokes. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm rected out. We've talked about it so
Rector-
much that I don't have anything original.
Jerry, do you have a rector joke?
Rector Boutnier drove her to college.
That was a good one.
You're welcome. We're
But yeah,
respectful here.
It is a generational haunting. So it follows this family. If you have time, absolutely look into it. It is fascinating. I think that there is a Borley Rectory show coming out soon. I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
Should be.
I don't know.
Piglet says yes.
Yes, Piglet does say yes.
She does follow the Netflixes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the most famous investigations of the time because it was so concise. It was so scientific. Like he brought in a group of people. I forget how many it was, but it was a bunch of slinky young somethings. He gave them a list of things to look out for, which some say probably drove their expectations, probably drove the spooks, and a little glass of brandy to be drank only if you faint, which is delightful. I wish
It'll pick
Ghost
you right
Investigation-
back up.
It'll get you. But yeah, a lot of the circumstances that happen in the book came directly from that investigation, like stones falling from the sky. There was an instance where, just small pebble-sized stones fell from the sky with no prior issue. And it happened just one day. And that is something that happened to Nell in the book. And something that happened in the show.
Yeah.
Something that happened in the movie. Like it's
No.
really interesting. Yeah. In The Haunting. In the 1963 movie.
I don't recall that.
Yeah, when the doctor is talking to Nell directly, she was like, "Hey, this happened to you as a kid," and she was like, "No."
Oh, it's mentioned.
Yeah,
Like we
it's
don't
mentioned
see
briefly.
we don't see the hail of stones.
No, but you
Okay.
do see the hail of stones during the storm scene in The Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah, yeah. See, that's where my brain was when you said it showed up there. I must have missed that line of dialogue mentioning it. Oh no! I do recall. Like it's at the dinner table when she's like, "Oh, I'm not interesting or anything like that." It's like,
Exactly.
no, you're the most interesting person here.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that come up like that. To move kind of forward, you get in that first adaptation one of the best characters of all time, Eleanor Vance. I love her
Eleanor.
so much. She is one of my favorite book protagonists. She meets with a very sad and untimely end, but she's happy?
Question mark.
Question mark. Like she's one with the house
If
in that
people-
first
yeah.
adaptation.
Happy, possessed.
If people want to be with the ghosts, is it
I don't know. Was it the house influencing her to want
So
to be with
I
it?
mean, like, because so just aside on that, and we discussed not wanting to really do too much with the 2018, like the Netflix series.
Yes, because I want you to watch it.
We want, if you like what you hear about Hill House and the haunted house genre, the thing we would recommend you watch after this would be that series. It's only 10 episodes. It's very well done, very good.
Beautiful. Look out for background.
Mike
ghosts.
Flanagan knows how to tell a ghost story modern day.
Yeah, so
he
well.
does.
And it's so different from the source material that by talking about the source material, we're not spoiling anything. So
No.
we're leaving that as a present for you, dear listener, if you want to check it out after. But not spoiling it, there are moments where it's treated like, because if you die in the house, particularly in this one, you're there.
You
Like
become
from
one with the house.
yeah, so
Yeah.
your spirit is there. And some treat it as this prison. You
Mhm.
do see antagonistic, evil, rotting ghosts, and I mean rotting in the like spiritual sense of you just get worse and worse and
Yeah.
more vile. But then you see it celebrated. You see ones where it's just like, no, this like it's your own little heaven. Like it's this, I get to live forever and everything. Like, so
Yeah.
is it like for you guys, like if people want and see that as a good thing, is it a good thing? Is that like
Yeah.
a possessive, like is that due to the nature of the house or like,
Mhm.
like, eh?
And it, I need to say, the book is very vague about whether or not the house is actually haunted, because much like in Lines of Dialogue you get in this first adaptation in 1963, the walls are very slightly tilted in the house. The doors are hung slightly off center. Like there are multiple drafts in the house. You have a flue that opens on its own because it was hung poorly. Like this house is weird. It's built a lot like the Winchester Mansion, if you've ever seen it or experienced it in general. So what that does with all of this setup is kind of makes you question every little instance, because all of them have a logical explanation. Like, of course, that door slammed on its own. The hinges are slightly off. Like, of course, there's a cold spot right here. The window's cracked open. Like, and that is something that I love so much about the book, because, it is Eleanor going crazy? Probably. Is it due to the house or her fragile mental state? Who's to say? Does she actually become one with the house in the end? I don't know. Like it is such a well-written ghost story because of those elements. Yeah.
Well, and that's part of also like why I asked, because it's just like she wanted to be there.
Yes, she
And-
needed a home.
And so it's like if the person if the perspective is like, oh, this is a way of living forever, this is a way of belonging, blah blah blah, like, are you taking the stance that the characters take of just like, no, you need to get out, you need help, or is it
Yeah.
just like I'm just is it a happy ending if you like live forever in a haunted house? Like from the actual paranormal perspective, because
Yeah.
you both come at it from a different angle than I do.
No, I don't want to live forever in a haunted house. From my perspective of, intelligent hauntings and stuff like that, they're never having a good time. Like they're not having fun. They're screaming into recorders and, scratching people. So no, I don't want to live in a haunted house or die in a haunted house. I don't know about you, Jer.
No, yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, anchored to one location, I don't think so. I'm not sure. But I mean, I can see, I guess maybe where I differ is I can see there are there's a bright side to, I guess, kind of being around, like maybe if you're at a place where your family is or something,
Good point.
Right.
But how intelligent? There's so many questions into this, because like intelligent hauntings, is it intelligent? Is it residual? Whatever it is, like am I aware of what's going on? Am I aware, or do I have to? Am I stuck on this like this amusement park track that I kind of come in and do my thing,
Yeah.
and then I go back to the starting point, and we repeat it whatever night, or whenever, for the end of time, till the end of
Right.
time.
Sounds awful.
Right. Like being a theme park decoration, essentially.
Mhm.
Having people come in there and yell at you to say something. I think
Over and
I
over.
lean more towards like no, which I mean, honestly, it's not surprised that there are so many angry go saying, "Get out!
Mhm.
You're too
Right.
Just
loud.
leave me alone.
Get out of my house."
Right.
I'm in the
Ex-
bathtub.
I'm
Just
I,
heck
I'm
off.
overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. Did you think I came here to be bothered? Like,
No.
yeah, I guess like that's one thing
Depends
that
on who you're with, I guess, too. Sorry, like
Mhm.
Yeah.
if someone goes with you and you're there together.
Well, and that's the
It
thing
depends.
is it's
Again, how
just
intelligent
like
are you in that?
Exactly.
yeah,
How aware?
and so the unknown, I think it makes it even
Terrifying.
scarier. Like, I will say I like the presentation of, like you mentioned, with the book and somewhat the first adaptation,
Mhm.
which, by the way, we're talking about The Haunting.
Yes, The Haunting, 1963.
The ambiguity of The Haunting also makes the I guess resolution
Yeah.
like more, it has more stakes because it's
Yeah.
like we have what we choose matters because we don't know.
Mhm.
Is she staying in a haunted house? Is she just staying here with a mental illness? Like in both scenarios, it's
Yeah.
like we don't know what leaving this person will do, and so the unknown makes the stakes greater.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think in general with people with hauntings with paranormal, like you both being fact-based paranormal people, like I'm not discounting that, but we don't know. Like
No.
we still
Oh, no.
don't know.
We can make educated guesses, but we don't know.
It's
And-
something that is beyond measuring right now. Like
Exactly.
to a point you can, but at the same
Mhm.
time, that's what makes it again. So it cannot be discounted because there is, to a point you can go, no, there is something going on,
Mhm.
but you can't undeniably say this
what that
100%
something
exists.
is.
This is the nature of how it works and why it works. Here's the scientific process as to how and stuff
Mhm.
like that and why. We
Right.
Yeah.
and we may never. I don't think we'll ever have that. And
I don't think I've
we're
said this like
supposed to.
Mhm.
like 3 times today. It's come up. I don't know why, but the phrase like we won't know until we know.
Yeah.
Like I think it's just one of those things where, but that's what adds to the spook, the scare of all of it is the unknown. And I think half of it, taking from the original inspirations, is just that. It's
Yeah.
like Shirley leaves it where it's up to you how haunted this house is,
Mhm.
right? And sometimes when we fill in the gaps, that's the scariest thing, paranormally or normally or petronormally as well, because apparently that's a word.
It is a word.
I did like that
That's
little
a great terminology.
Mhm.
yeah, I loved that bit from the book, and I appreciated that it made it into 2 out of 3 adaptations because like I liked just the idea of like what's supernatural today is natural tomorrow. Like
Mhm.
I like that because that induces the exploration of the unknown.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Which there's a bit of that. Like there's a quote from Shirley where she talks about like I'm not going to do this if I don't really believe. If my reality isn't that I believe in this stuff, I'm not going to do scary stories because it just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. But despite believing, it's all that ambiguity, because it's unknown, but she wants to venture into that, and I like that it opens that door.
Mhm.
The Haunting is a great story, book, show, whatever, for the believer or non-believer. I think it takes
Absolutely.
an interesting side to both perspectives.
Yeah, and like if you're going to watch an adaptation, I do recommend that you watch the first movie. Definitively. It is so good. It is incredibly well written. The only thing that it really does differently is that it confirms the haunting, which they
Yeah,
had to at that point.
Every version they've done, and I
Yeah.
think it's because film and they don't want to.
It's very hard to adapt this book very faithfully.
Because so much of it isn't like how's it going to happen if it's not a ghost? Like,
Exactly.
you know, like there's this thing with filmmaking that they don't trust the audience to make their own assumption, I guess, like, oh, that was real or that wasn't real. Or that the audience, if they assume one thing, one moment, that they are stuck with it. Like, oh, I thought this was a real thing. Turns out it wasn't. Like, I thought there was a treehouse. There's not a treehouse. Like, stuff like that. It's just like, oh, you can't change things on you know, movie watchers are dumb. You can't do that.
And you know, there's the element of spectacle that is highly prevalent in the movies to come. But something that I do enjoy very much about this first adaptation is you get Eleanor's internal monologue that you get a lot in the book. Of course, it's to confirm the haunting, but that's fine. You know what? It's a good movie. It's a good ghost story. Who cares? And then to take
I wanted to point out, because we talked about it last week a little bit with The Exorcist, of like not getting scared.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that jump scares are about like the only thing that exists. Like, I think no matter how into horror you are, jump scares are going to get you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure even the mighty Gerry.
Just a startle response.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
it gets me.
I scream like a little baby, you know, like all the time. Yeah. No.
Are you a fight or flight like, do you like jump like you're gonna run, or do you like clinch up like you're gonna fight?
Somewhere in the middle, because I don't think I would fight. But I don't think I would. I might be more of a runner, but I'm not going to get up and run.
I'm
and I say that,
and run.
But I've done a paranormal investigation back down in Arkansas with my friends and stayed the whole night. And it was his dad's indoor shooting range. Don't get me started. It was Arkansas. It was 10 years ago. America's got lots of problems.
Interesting story.
It's true.
But no, and I mean, like I said, like I told last night on Bombad, we told our paranormal stories, and I got chased by that UFO just to tease a little bit. Go listen to that. I'm not going to tell the whole story, but like,
story.
Once I got to my friend's house that I was leaving and came back, and they were like, let's go look at it. I was like, yeah, let's go, And so I think I'm that kind of person. The new Mike Flanagan joint, though, that I've been watching, like, the Midnight Club.
Yes.
He does really good at like building up a scare. It's coming. And so I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No.
He's a master of tension.
I'm sternly telling him, stop it. Stop it, sir.
I honestly, I think though, I enjoy those.
Oh yeah.
Like the ones I know are coming, and it's that build up. I think the ones that get me and get a like fight response out of me are the ones that are just so startling. And so in the 1963 one, in the old black and white film,
that was House on Haunted Hill, though.
Was it that one?
It is House on Haunted Hill. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, they're two different things, though inspired by the same story.
Do we want to go in release order or like movie remake?
Doesn't matter.
It's fine.
Does it look like we have a plan? Okay. But anyway, in an old film, they got me with a jump scare. One of the earliest apparent jump scares. Like it was just so unexpected.
Yeah. There was no build up. It was just she turns and
Yeah, it was intense. And that was the scariest thing about anything I watched in preparation for this episode. But so it's confusing because, all right, so there's The Haunting.
There's The Haunting,
I'll look it up.
1963. 69? 60.
63. That's definitely 63.
The Haunting 1963. And then there's The Haunting 1999. And then there's
The
House on Haunted Hill.
Yes, The Haunting is directly based on the book.
Yes.
Whereas House on Haunted Hill.
It's when we get to, there is a whole history for those movies that is fascinating. Like, I mean, I can go ahead and start on that if we want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So back in the 60s, there was a filmmaker named William Castle. You may have seen before if you watched the remakes of both of these movies. Dark Castle Entertainment. That's owned by some form of descendant of his. I can't get a straight answer. We'll see. But William Castle was the master of the gimmick in the 60s. He made movies like 13 Ghosts, one of the coolest movies ever made.
The original.
The original 13
say,
Ghosts.
I've seen the remake.
Yeah. So if you were like me, I figured that's too ridiculous to be old, right? Like it's just it's so of its time, I guess, as a film.
It's completely different.
Cool.
Like it tonally as well as story. Like, but the point is the
very
gimmick.
good movie.
Yeah, the gimmick was when you went into the theater, you were handed a pair of 3D glasses, and you could only watch the movie and see the ghosts if you had the 3D glasses.
Ooh.
What?
And then, yes. And so there would be a flashing light when it was time for you to put on your glasses so you can see the ghost. And that was, when the characters in the movie would put on the glasses. And then House on Haunted Hill came out.
Oh my gosh, I think we just need to pause and appreciate how awesome that is.
It gets
I
better,
want
baby.
I want to experience that.
What I love
Redo
is so the remake didn't do any of that, but they kept the glasses.
Yep.
Is that
They kept the glasses. That was the only thing that they kept because that was central to the plot. And then,
so he made this movie for that gimmick.
Absolutely.
Literally.
100%.
What?
The reason the ending of House on Haunted Hill is actually, let me tell you about The Tingler first.
Oh God.
So The Tingler was a movie I remember almost nothing about, but I remember the story behind it. So what he did is he went to a bunch of theaters in LA and he was like, hey, we're going to put special seats in these theaters. And there's going to be a point where Vincent Price looks at the camera directly and goes, oh my God, it's loose in the theater. Just be careful, be calm, just look out for it. And there were buzzers under these seats that would go
That's
off.
Amazing.
Exactly. And then at the ending of House on Haunted Hill, there's a scare with a skeleton where there's a skeleton on a marionette system. And they had a skeleton flying around the room in the theater. William Castle was a freaking genius of his time.
That's what. So that in the movie, there's a extended there's
an extended
scene
skeleton
where Vincent Price has this complex marionette system.
Yeah.
And he's just fiddling with it. And it's just him, and the strings are going off the screen, and he's just fiddling for like 2 minutes. And I'm like, we get it. He's puppeting the skeleton. Why are we lingering so much on this shot?
The thing though, it was meant to be seen in a theater.
Yeah.
With a skeleton flying around the room.
Which not your big chain theaters don't have skeletons on wires typically.
Not at all.
That
or
would
it's
not
the
happen
tingle
today.
the butt whenever he looks. It's loose in the. I want to go to that theater
amazing.
and watch
Yes.
it. I want to watch it with that experience.
100%.
We need small theaters to keep that experience alive.
That's how
Because
you do that.
Regal is not going to do something like that. Like AMC is not going to be down for this. Like we need the little ones to.
You got to. Yeah. Well, I mean, some of them have those 4D experiences, but they're not available everywhere. So that's the thing. Yeah.
It would be a dream to open and operate my own theater and do experiences like that for William Castle movies.
I would be the phantom of your megaplex any day.
That is the most romantic thing you've said to me in a long time.
I'll be the ticket taker. This way, please.
Walk this way. Exactly.
Oh my!
Master,
you get to reset the tinglers after every showing.
I'm the tingler.
More victims, I mean customers.
You're hired, Gerry.
So that's kind of amazing. Yeah. I like because we talked about like those 60s films, how theater they are. And that's exactly what you'd get in a theater experience. Like you're there too. Like you're part of the experience.
And the whole difference, which lends to, the story of the haunting in general, is it's not actually haunted. There is no haunting happening in House on Haunted Hill. It's all Vincent Price trying to kill his wife
Yeah.
and then failing
It's
and then
v-
succeeding.
I was very disappointed in the lack of paranormal activity, actually.
The only spooky thing is that jump scare with the caretaker, where she turns around and there's the caretaker going like this, and there's a music sting. But she's not a ghost.
The
She's
music
just an old
scares
lady.
you. The music scares
Exactly.
you. It's not the
It's-
yeah.
It's the suddenness. And,
Which-
like we said, this is one of the first jump scares in a movie.
We,
So
we talked
we're
about
expecting it.
you and I like things like that where it sets up that it's one thing and then it pulls it out. Like
Oh, yeah.
it sets up it's a Scooby-Doo gimmick where it's like
Basically.
Yeah.
it's all spooky, and then you realize, oh no, it's not, it's Farmer Jim. Like
Mhm.
I like things like that.
Really
It's
good.
just not that film was done that way. That
No.
I was like, oh,
And it was kind of more in line with movies that were coming out at the time. Like this was William Castle was a thriller noir director for the longest time until he realized how much money could be made off of horror. So, he used those noir techniques in making this movie,
mhm.
and it shows. Like it
Mm.
is such a fun movie to watch, just to watch the backstabbing, honestly.
Yeah, like the character, they're both very well done
You
for
get
older films,
Vincent Price being at his Vincent Priciest.
right?
It is excellent.
And so The Haunting and The House on Haunted Hill both got remakes in '99, when they were trying to reliven that up, and both were very bad. Both were very, very bad, by the way.
The Haunting had Liam Neeson,
That's the
That's
only
all I
good
will
thing,
say.
though.
but
See,
The House on
The
Haunted
House-
Hill had Chris Kattan.
Ooh.
I hate
Jerry's into it now.
that movie
Oh my
so
gosh.
much.
Listen,
It's fun to watch and make fun of, I will say.
I
so
didn't even
I've
have fun
never
with that.
seen any of these,
Dude,
which I
watch
said at the
them.
beginning.
That's
But
true.
I remember when House on Haunted Hill came out
Mm.
and everything, like up to the
In
point of even like
1963.
whenever it, like no, yeah, the 1999 one with Chris Kattan, because I remember we had Hollywood Video I would go to rent videos, and I would religiously went to that place. They had like little guides as to what was coming out this month,
Mm.
and I remember like flipping and seeing like, oh, House on Haunted. Like I'm not really into haunted stuff right now. Like
Just
We-
wait.
just wait good. But yeah, no, that was yeah, it takes me back because I do remember when that one was coming out, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
not surprised. I don't know. Could have been good, I guess, maybe.
It-
Yeah, good source material.
It had excellent source material, and yet it managed to
Yet
be one of the
Chris
worst
Kattan.
movies I've ever
So
seen.
I came up with a theory that I think that the writer and director actually time traveled 10 years into the future and was like, hey, guy at Hollywood Video, give me the most popular horror films of the last 10 years. Watched them all and was like, okay, yeah, I can do that. Goes back to 1999 and makes this film with those tropes. 'Cause somehow
And
it
does
has
poorly.
tropes of films that would be done better after it.
Absolutely.
And it's just like how are you so at the cutting edge and yet so dull? Like
It's not even a house.
right.
Like that was the
Yes.
thing that I kept saying out loud while they were
So in the remake
Fire
they changed it
on
into
the side of my face.
they changed it into a sanitarium,
It's not even like. Please.
Scary,
continue talking
crazy.
about
which
this.
I guess for the
it's- yeah,
people
yeah.
which I guess for the people living there it
That
is
sounds very
their
90s.
I
house,
guess it's
honestly.
technically a house.
right? Like
Yeah. Any Waffle House can be a Waffle Home. Like-
Listen, in the 90s, everything was extreme, and I'm not saying EXTRE, like no, X dash
Extreme.
extreme,
exactly.
They were reading their
X
extreme
dash
teen
stream.
Bibles.
and
Even
right,
Jesus
exactly.
is.
But like no, it was like no. Listen, houses are boring. It's a sanitarium because it's to the extreme. Give me that Mountain Dew. Ah,
It's one of those things like
do a kickflip.
No, it'd be a surge.
it would be a surge. What the concept is stupid. The movie is bad. And if you've watched this podcast or talked to me in any capacity, I don't dislike movies very often. Like if there's something that I'm not interested in watching, I just don't watch it. Or we've called supreme power of suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
Like I just like stuff. I just like
I'm the
watching
same.
things.
Enjoyed Halloween Ends.
Morbius.
Exactly.
Did not enjoy Halloween Ends. Neither did my
Loved.
microphone, apparently.
I still need to watch Morbius.
I liked Halloween Ends.
It was so good.
You continue
was
to
so
be
I liked
twins.
Halloween Kills better.
You continue to be
Thank
twins.
you.
I liked it better too. And I didn't like Halloween Kills.
You liked Halloween, and that was
I
it.
liked Halloween. I've said before, like I'm hard to please
Yeah.
when it comes to Halloween movies. So
I'm easy to
not
please.
I'm not an authority in general, but
Mm-hmm.
yes, like you were vibing the entire time with this.
Yeah, I was
And
having
so,
a great time.
not that I was having a great time watching these 1999 remakes, but it was interesting so quickly flipping the roles, because like last
Yes.
week you're watching something and enjoying it, and I'm like, I'm disappointed.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen very often. Like as I've said, it takes a lot for me to dislike a movie this viscerally. I freaking hate this movie so much because it pisses me off with how bad of an adaptation it is. None of the characters are likable. It's poorly acted. They took elements of other horror movies that were more successful and better done, and they just ripped them to shreds. It's like someone watched Jacob's Ladder and then described it through an awful game of telephone to someone else, and then they made that movie. Like, that's it. And I'm going to stop now because I'm getting pissed off again.
Angry
So
boop.
get me started on Morbius. We're good. It's fine. You know, like
There
that's
you
the
go.
one.
It's more
I remember having I haven't ever, I think, had as visceral as of a movie experience where like I was viscerally uncomfortable as I
Have you
was.
seen Black Adam?
You
Sorry.
haven't
yet.
either.
No, I haven't. But I'm not interested to.
No.
Um,
And that's how it is. That's how it should be. Is like if you don't like something,
yeah, it just
Meh.
is. It just is what it is.
I'm never
Complain
going to
about
make
it on the
Gerry
internet.
watch Morbius again.
I am going to for content someday. It's going to happen. I mean,
now that it's on Netflix, now I will say I
On
watched
Netflix?
the first 10 minutes of Morbius, and
Without me?
you'll never believe how. Well, I mean, you might, but
Okay, I need to hear this now.
so someone decided to just turn the movie into a GIF,
Oh my god.
and I'm not even joking. Like it was maybe 2 months ago on Twitter, and it looks like a GIF on Twitter, and yet it just keeps going.
And
And
you just
so
watched
the entire
movie?
movie.
I mean, I made it 10 minutes in, Gerry. Like I had to. I was like, oh, this is funny. It's gonna stop
Scotty
eventually.
must not find out that this
No,
exists. He must
he's
not.
gonna upload it to Bombadcast.
It didn't stop. And so I was just like, whoa, I did not consent to a full morb right now. Like, I can't do this.
Go half morb,
No. I maybe consented to a half morb. All right.
Right. At least I consented to 10 minutes, and that's it. That's all you get, buddy. And so
We should do a commentary track.
I was
Morb.
so surprised. I thought it was like
I would do
thought
it.
it was just
I want
a
to make Scotty
joke.
cry.
I want to watch it.
And so
Sorry.
somebody turned 1999's House on Haunted Hill into a GIF, and that's the appropriate way to watch that movie.
No, don't watch it. It's a bad movie. Like
Just
I
watch
said-
Night at the Roxbury.
Exactly.
If you want
It's
Exactly.
fine.
Yes.
It's a fine movie. Like, okay, I said it as much on Twitter. There are a few movies in the world that I outright refuse to watch ever again, and that is one of them. I watched it for the podcast, and now I'm never going to speak of it again because of how much I hate it. Anyway, moving on.
I mean, really, like, without getting into the 2018 series, because that it was until 2018 that Hill House saw a resurgence again. Mike Flanagan got very good at horror and very recognized, and Netflix was like, hey, like, keep doing that for us, please.
Golden
And-
Goose.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Mike Flanagan is absolutely incredible.
Dr. Sleep, Oculus, Hush,
Oh my God.
to name a
Um,
few.
I think of him as the modern master of horror. Like
absolutely.
like the best in a long time.
Hmm.
There's
Mhm.
been good horror movies, but it seems like everything that Mike Flanagan puts out, and people will be like, oh, like everything that's come out since Hill House, like, oh, that's not as scary as Hill House. But I'm like,
That's
y'all
not the
aren't
point.
But it's
watching.
good.
Exactly.
Because there's story, and the way that man does a ghost story, the way that he mixes in the human trauma, real life human trauma with it is
Hmm.
Mhm.
is brilliant. brilliant.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
learn
It's
something.
again, he cuts, like you said, he cuts back to the old school tropes
Yeah.
and stories and brings them to a modern audience, but doesn't, I think, dumb it down.
No. Well, that's
In
the thing
fact,
is
he just elevates it even more.
yeah, like and
Plus, he's from Salem.
one of the
Massachusetts.
He is
yeah
from
he is.
Salem.
So it's almost like
He's
it's
spooky.
summoned to be so.
Mhm.
But
I
I
saw Mike
won't.
Flanagan with the devil.
I want to see Mike Flanagan's basement. Does he have a pentagram in his basement? I want to see.
If he
He
keeps
might.
making good stuff, I don't care what he does in his basement.
Yeah,
Graham, does he have
paint
one in his
whatever-
basement?
Yeah, paint whatever occult symbol you want to on your basement floor. I don't
That's
know.
fine. I have a lot of devil paraphernalia in our home, and I'm not the devil.
Yeah, horror is his thing, and I think in general he's unequivocally good at it. Like,
I mean, for Pete's sake, if you've ever seen Midnight Mass,
mhm,
that is one of the most beautiful atmospheric horror shows I have seen in my entire life.
mhm.
Yeah,
And a
and I don't even
vampire
want to say.
story.
Oh, I was gonna say, I was like,
Oh.
you almost don't know that that's what it is
Yeah.
for like the longest time. It's so good.
Well, because that's what he does well is he tells a story and then it turns into a horror.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's almost one of those things where it evolves as you consume it, whether it's film or series. And that's what's really interesting about him is he's good at both. There are people that are very good at syndicated,
Mhm.
what would be weekly if it was cable, horror,
Yeah.
episodic. And then there's people that are good at 2 hours. And then there's
He's good
people
at
that are just good at
both.
doing stuff.
And he's so good at adaptations. Like we watched Doctor Sleep about a year ago, and we went into this movie expecting for me to have to tell you details from the book that like pad it and fill in gaps. I had to explain nothing to you because it was that faithful an adaptation.
Yeah.
Like it was so good. I want him to do The Shining. Mike Flanagan, if you were out there, please direct a Shining adaptation because I know you can do it.
Very talented. Very talented.
Also
And-
adapt to the Sally House.
Also,
Right.
the Tommy Knockers, because that is an underappreciated Stephen King story, and I think that you could do it very well.
I was in love with the ABC series with Jimmy Smits.
Dude,
I was
it's
one of
so
the first.
bonkers.
Honestly, that might be the first horror thing that I really watched and everything. But it was Aliens, and I'm all about that.
It's a
you know?
good
Yeah.
place to start. I love the Tommy Knockers.
I have a special place for those shown on sci-fi, like
Mhm.
3 hour, 6 hour ones like Dreamcatcher.
You hated the Langoliers, though.
Somewhat. I liked not Perfect Storm. I always freaking forget
Storm of the Century.
Storm of the Century. I don't know. I just remember watching those, and they were just like such an evening.
Mhm.
Like for me as a kid, like watching those took the whole afternoon, and so it just like super nostalgic for me.
Mhm.
But hey, if anybody can do Storm of the Century again and better, Mike
Mhm.
Flanagan,
Who knows?
get
Like,
at it.
Give
maybe
Mike
he could
Flanagan all the
do-
horror things, whatever he wants.
Absolutely.
Whatever he
Frankly.
wants.
Just make him besties with Stephen King for the rest of time and have him in his basement just making his movies.
And so it like again, the goal would be talking about spooky stuff, getting you interested in this, and you check out the Netflix series because it's just that
Please.
good.
It is so good.
And then you can spill over as much as you want because there's these, and then again, like you can go really down a rabbit hole on what else has been inspired by Hill
Exactly.
House, because
Go ahead.
I just think the way Shirley did a haunted house,
Mhm.
it became the definition
Yeah.
for decades to come.
If I could get even more specific, House of Leaves, one of the greatest maze/haunted house stories, was partially inspired by Hill House. If I could get controversial here for a second, I don't
Please do.
know if anybody will like come after me at this point, but
Nobody listens to this show. Just
Amityville.
kidding.
I am a skeptic of Amityville specifically,
The story.
but the story.
But the story.
The story is excellent. It is cinematic. I think it was exaggerated. I do
Oh,
believe there
that-
was something in Amityville, yes.
I disagree.
But I mean, I don't know, man. There's some very
I
specific
think it was just a
things.
mafia hitman.
I mean, like the
Well,
book
not
that
the
came out
mafia,
there.
but like
Yeah.
we know that they were in ties with Bad Company.
Yeah.
I just think it was
The
a
band's
hit.
Bad Company.
No, I know
I
who
just-
it was.
I
It's
think it
totally
was a hit.
Gabagool.
Now, is
Sinjili.
watching muscle-bound Ryan Reynolds get possessed like
Baby, oh my
um,
god.
It's a great
Like,
movie.
my
And also,
jam-
That's a good movie.
you know, like I will watch that all day.
Even the first
Um,
movie.
It's
Ryan
so
Reynolds
good.
is one of my straight man crushes. Like
He's-
like every
Mini-
straight man
mini-
has
Yeah.
crushes that they don't talk about that they should because it's totally fine. Like that is the dude that I would hang out with. I would hang out with.
Kiss a
And if
little?
he,
It's totally
and if he
fine.
asked,
he's
"Do you
on,
wanna
I would
kiss?"
Definitely appreciate it.
Yeah.
I would again straight male would consider it. Like, all right, buddy.
Who would deny Ryan Reynolds?
There are a few men out there that are almost every man I've talked to, like, I call it a hall pass, maybe. Like,
I don't like that term, but okay.
I don't either. It's not good. But yeah, like there's always when they come up in conversation,
Oh, yeah,
every
there-
guy
there-
is like, "Oh my god, yes."
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds.
Like-
oh yeah,
Ryan
five
Reynolds-
different
There-
positions and 6 ways to Sunday. Yeah.
There's like a Venn diagram where everybody just agrees,
Yeah.
yes. Like, you know.
Keanu
Yes.
Reeves is another one that I've heard.
Mhm.
Cillian Murphy, but that's
Mhm.
very specific to one
Mm.
person.
Cillian Murphy.
I enjoy that man, but not like
He's
that.
But like at the same time,
He's
he
an
got-
amazing
He
actor.
has sharp bones. Like that man has
Yeah,
such
cut
Whoa,
you.
like such a profile. Such a profile.
And then you get like your Timothy Chalamets who are like Walmart Cillian Murphys. I do not like.
we have
Young
uh,
Cillian Murphy.
at home. It's Timothy. Anyway, but yes. So
Right, what we're talking about.
check out the Netflix series.
Please.
I think is what we're establishing.
Yes.
And then go down the rabbit hole of just haunted houses.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh,
so
what was the other one?
that what I mean that's where I was going with it is what are some other being more of the Hill House person amongst the three of us, what are some other haunted house stories you would think are Hill House inspired?
Poltergeist, 100% Poltergeist.
Oh, wow.
That has a lot of elements of family horror.
Mhm.
That it is not Steven Spielberg's Poltergeist. It is Tobe Hooper's Poltergeist. Always have to make that distinction when talking about the movie. It was marketed as a family movie. It is not a family movie. It is a traumatized
Well, it was
your kids
before
movie.
the
Giant spectral vagina in it. I hear. I
There
think.
is. There's one of those in the Haunting on House on Haunted Hill remake too.
yeah, it's not pretty.
It's not pretty. It's really, really bad.
So many polygons.
Oh god. Jean Grey's face coming out of a polygon. Like that is a thing that happened in that
Mhm.
movie. Anyway, so yes, you get movies like Poltergeist, Amityville if you're nasty. What was I made an entire list and now it's completely flown the coop. Monster House, if you wanna go
It's
for
such a
the
good
kids.
movie.
Oh man, it is such
Have you seen that
a good
one, Gerry?
freaking movie.
It's been a long time ago, but yes, I have seen it. Yeah, very
Saw
good.
that sucker in theaters.
That was one.
It's a-
So, oh, go ahead.
That's a Robert Zemeckis joint, is it not?
I believe so. I believe it is a
yeah.
Robert Zemeckis.
Mhm. Love me some
considering-
Robert Zemeckis.
Mhm.
Our love of Star Wars and animation being a big medium of Star Wars, and also just animation being a big like section of like my favorite things. I'm not it's animation, it's for kids person,
Yeah.
but I did not expect Monster House to not be a kids movie. Like I did
You
not
to my
expect that.
parents.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
Every-
that you know how many that and how many angry parents we had coming out of Paranorman.
Oh,
I love that movie so much.
I
Wait
would
a
still say
second.
Paranorman is a bit more of a kids movie than
Oh, yeah.
Monster
It is,
learn a
House.
but
lesson
it
for
really made the
Paranorman.
conservative parents squirm in their seats.
Well, so did
Witchcraft.
Hocus Pocus 2, apparently. Like, goodness gracious,
Don't
people.
put that
I
mess
haven't
on your
seen that.
TV.
I've seen
or
Hocus
else
Pocus
I'll
2, but
beat
I
you.
haven't seen. Listen, just Hocus Pocus, just it's whatever. It's fine.
It's
And
Hocus
I
Pocus.
knew when I watched it. I knew when I watched it that like you're gonna have the Karens and the Keiths all up in arms. Like, oh, so
Yeah.
you want my kid to become a witch? Is that what you want to happen?
It would be
And,
cool if they did,
I wish they would be, frankly.
Right.
honestly.
Um,
Manifest
could put a
some
spell on
therapy for
you.
your parents.
I want to say the first Conjuring, but I know that's technically based on a story, quote unquote.
Kind
you
of.
know. Like I think if it's not a fully fictitious thing, I think the way questionably factual supernormal events are made into film,
Hmm.
much like Shirley did with the book, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like, even though James Wan is making a movie about a questionable account of an occurrence,
Mhm.
like the way he makes the movie, I think lends itself to that same sort of, all right, I'm taking something, but I'm making it entertaining, but I'm making it questionable kind of
Yeah.
science. So honestly, so we've talked a lot about like, oh, she made a story that inspired a story that inspired a story that inspired a story. But I think also like she adapted something that inspired how to adapt
Mhm.
things also.
Absolutely.
Kind of like what we're talking about with Mike Flanagan, like to do what he's doing, kind of started with
Yeah.
Shirley.
And you know what? It's a jacuzzi hot tub kind of thing where every Dracula adaptation is a vampire movie, but not every vampire movie is a Dracula adaptation, if that makes sense. Like, Dracula was the first vampire story in mass media, but it has been so widely distributed in so many different cultures. You cannot say that every single vampire movie out there is a Dracula adaptation. But
Dracula
Kiss is a pretty
did it
good
first.
adaptation.
But Dracula definitely did it.
Yeah, something that is so iconic can seed inspiration wherever it lands, and that is Shirley Jackson writing The Haunting of Hill House. I got it out eventually.
Exactly.
And there are certain stories like that create a culture around it that is so inspirational and so, like, it's fertile ground for adaptation in every different form, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
So, Gerry, do you have in general like a favorite haunted house like film or story or anything like that, real or supposedly real or not real?
Yeah.
Well, if we're talking media like film or adaptation, whatever, it's The Haunting of Hill House for me. That is like one of the best haunted house like tellings on film or whatever you can watch on a TV screen.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite, just real, if I could say real stories. So I'm going to have my cake and eat it too here. I'm going to take both.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why you're here.
I really dig. Well, we already did the Sally House and everything. I really kind of dig that story. But there are, I don't know. I'm trying to think. That one sticks out in my mind simply because of the whole, just the whole concept of that house and how it's almost like the house is the villain in that entire account. Almost it makes it seem like, oh, it's a little girl, or no, it's this, or it's a bunch of ghosts, or is there something there that's not human? What is there? What is it? What is going on there? Like, was it there was a little girl that died a long time ago, or was there something that's older and not human that's where they are and they stay there? And if you come, you better not come here, because I'm gonna follow you. I'm gonna have you for the rest of your life. That kind of stuff. I don't know, like it. I'm trying to think of another, because there's other stories that have really like kind of stuck with me and everything, but like the Sally House for some reason just really kind of sticks with me.
Yeah.
In
It's
that
hard not to.
respect. Yeah.
For
Oh yeah,
sure.
and look up any of that stuff. Watch our episode of Beyond Bombad,
Yes.
especially. And I still have the speaking of well, we talked earlier. What is it about the evil ghosts? The people who were upset, would become more and more decrepit and gross
Yep.
and disgusting and
Mhm.
You still have that
and there's
image?
I still have the picture. I still have the picture of that sculpture on my
Oh,
phone.
God.
That the guy who was being absolutely just tortured at Sally House made of the thing that the little girl turned into when it grabbed his arm, but when it, by his bed. That story is effing harrowing.
Yes, highly recommend checking out the episode just to see that.
Yeah.
If nothing else, just to see.
I mean, I can show it on my camera right here,
Please
but I don't.
don't.
Boop would, yeah, boop would.
I gotta go to sleep after this.
we
man.
we showed it so we showed it so much.
Just-
Well, I
just
say we like I
cartoony
was
eye.
there,
You were there
um,
in spirit.
but like every time someone new came to the chat, and it's just like, oh, so and so's here. You missed the
Oh,
thing.
hey,
you
look
know?
at the monster.
Right.
Here's the
And
booger
leave it up
monster.
for like 30
Yeah.
seconds. It's just amazing.
Poor Goose.
To me, it makes it better that it's the booger monster. Like, it's just
Yeah.
I call it the booger
Right.
monster. It's
It's
the
a-
booger monster with the little. It's got a googly eye.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say it depends because like in
The
the
description is worse.
in the
Yeah.
2018 Hill House, there's repeated mention of a girl with the runny egg eyes, and that
Yum.
sounds jovial
Yeah, no.
until it happens.
hmm Yep.
And so
And that's all we're gonna say about it.
Which
the book-
adaptation is that?
that's
That's
a Netflix
2018.
one.
Is that the what?
Yeah,
I have
You
missed
gotta
that.
rewatch it.
Oh
Yeah.
god. Oh god.
Yeah.
check it out. Like it comes up a few times and then it pays off. And
And boy, does it
Um,
pay off.
but every time they mention it, I'm just like, is that really the best way they could in the story? That's absolutely what someone would call
Mhm.
that. But
Mhm.
like when you're trying to make it's like the pee pee poo poo man. Like when you're trying to make a horror movie, that's not what you call your thing. guy.
No, the bye bye guy.
right, or whatever.
Yeah.
Mr. Smiley. Let's just like that's not
But
a
it makes it so much more real and a little more
Yeah.
creepy too. He's like the runny egg eyes. Like you said that, and immediately I was like, oh no.
Yeah,
I don't want to
the
see the girl with the
possibility.
runny egg eyes.
because
No.
you can already see it. Like
Yep.
that's the thing.
Ah!
it already gives it to you, and
Mhm.
then you're every time it comes up, you're just like, am I gonna see it? Am I gonna see it? Am I gonna see it?
Yeah.
So
It's like I want to see
Anyway.
it, but I don't want to see it. Which is just
Right.
that's my relationship with the paranormal. It's like, oh, I want to see it. No, I don't. No, I don't. No,
No,
I
no,
want
no,
to.
no.
I want
I
to
wanna
show it to
hear
me.
about it.
I want
put it away,
evidence, but I
put it
don't
away.
want to be there for it. I
Exactly.
don't want to be the evidence.
I do and I don't. That's the
Exactly.
thing. I'm getting more to the point where I'm like, I kind of want to see it, but I know as soon as I see it, I'm gonna be like, nope.
Nope.
That's
again.
why
Nope,
that's why
nope,
we
we're
need to investigate together, because then I can
It's
just be
true.
like, just have me.
Exactly.
Just have me.
Listen, that's you
It's
joke.
gonna happen.
That will happen down the line once budget constraints are taken care of. Nerd Herder and Bombadcast will be like, because like Scotty will have to drag him kicking and screaming.
We will
Um,
hold his hand.
When we finally get
But
that
to have
Disney
him at a
shield
place.
check,
Yeah.
oh, it'd be amazing.
Can you imagine having Scotty Shero, and those of you who aren't familiar with him on here, like reacting to hearing something?
Mm-hmm.
We would definitely have to dress him in a helmet and knee pads and elbow pads.
Oh
I feel
God,
like. Just
the man would jump out of a window.
we just need to brace him for sure.
Please.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
We're here, buddy. We're here for you, buddy. It's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I thought of two more. Sorry.
Sure.
bring 'em
So,
on.
Yeah,
House, 1970.
that's right. You
something.
did mention that.
And also House.
House.
House,
Yes.
which it came out about the same time.
I didn't know
two-
that.
Go ahead.
No, what was I gonna say? You're talking the that's the foreign made one, right?
Yeah.
So,
Japanese movie.
There's a Japanese original,
I didn't
and
know
then
it existed.
there's a
Mhm.
very
Oh.
not recent. There's a very soon after American
Yes.
remake.
House.
And then
Both
there's a
called House.
sequel To
that
the American
you did
one,
not enjoy. It's called House 2 Second Story,
I
which is the best
feel-
title I have ever heard in my life.
I feel
Oh yeah, I've seen those, but like the house, like I've heard that one is insanely
It is
scary.
the
No.
Japanese one.
Yeah, Japanese.
Yes.
Most
I
of them
feel
are.
about the House 2 the way you feel about the haunting, the House on Haunted Hill, 1999.
There's so many houses. There's so
There's so
many
many houses, so
hauntings,
many hills.
so many hills.
I hate
Yeah.
that movie.
I know.
Um,
I was expecting it to be one of those movies that we watched together, and
And
I'm like, watch this movie with me. It's funny.
I
It's
didn't get
stupid.
there. It's a
No.
lot like that one you showed
had a
me with
bad
the grandpa that they dug up out of the ground.
That's House 2, baby.
That is House 2?
That is House 2.
Is that all happening at like the same time?
Yes, it is.
Oh my
That was all the
God.
same movie.
That with the repairman and the
Yep. That's all the
Oh
same
my
movie.
God, that's like two different movies.
They couldn't decide. You haven't even seen Spookies,
Ah!
which is the definition of two very different movies happening at the same
But
time.
have you seen Ghoulies?
Yes, I have seen Ghoulies.
Oh, okay, well.
I've not seen any of these movies.
I'm gonna make you a list.
Do you
of horror movies
have you
to
seen
watch.
Gremlins?
Oh, I've seen Gremlins. Yeah.
If you like Gremlins, you'll like Ghoulies.
And if you don't
Ghoulies
like
is the one with the
Gremlins,
monsters that come out of the toilets, right?
Yes.
I've heard
It's a lot of fun.
Seen.
and then there's a
Of it.
video game called Grabbed by the Ghoulies,
Grabbed by the Ghoulies.
which is nothing to do with that.
Just never grab your Ghoulies.
Don't. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was going to ask you the same question, kind of in closing of just like, so like in talking about Hill House and the many haunted house inspired stories, do you have a favorite, fictional or otherwise,
Mhm.
to add?
Well, like I have.
Or is it Hill House?
Hill House is definitely up there. I'll say my favorite house haunting story is probably Ju-on, because it is like so excellent of a movie.
Is that?
Yeah, it's the house that's the haunted thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's good. It's very good. You should watch it. Don't watch the American remake because it sucks. But then it's up to you, baby. I'm not your dad or a police, so
That's Grudge for
Yes.
anyone that doesn't know.
yeah.
I see. I've
but
seen the
yeah.
American Grudge.
Yeah, so Ju-on is Grudge.
hmm
Um,
You can watch the American remake. It's fine, but it's not as good.
No, I've
it's
heard.
better. It's better than The Ring
It's way better than
adaptation.
The Ring. Way better than The Ring. But the
Um,
book of The Ring is way better than both of them. So
of all of them, I'm a big fan of One Missed Call. I thought that was a really good
from Shudder.
adaptation. It's a very good one as well.
Dark Water is also anyway. So real life, sorry, real life. I'm a big fan of the old, scary, spooky historical stories. So like I said, Jeff the Talking Mongoose is way up there.
So good.
Burley Rectory is way up there. But one of my favorites is the Bell Witch story, because that is such a
That's the one I was trying to
cornerstone
think of.
history.
I think.
Yes, it is so freaking neat because you get like a cult, you get ghost, you get like witchcraft in there. It's a lot of fun. Listen to last podcast on the left coverage of the Bell Witch, or
you possibly
also
even get someone murdered in there
exactly.
by a
Mm.
It's
ghost.
very nice.
by the
Ghost
paranormal.
murder.
Ooh.
It's
Yes.
thought.
Yes, but it was also a very, very long time ago.
Interesting. I love when you say things and Gerry gets excited, and I'm just like, I know some of these words.
That's fine.
Seriously, no. And Bell Witch, that was the one that it was kind of like that's the like people would go
Mhm.
to see the activity. Like that's because that's what you did back in the day, and people would go and things would happen. It was witnessed by so many people from
Yeah.
all around the surrounding towns would come and spend the night just to experience something, and would either stay or run the hell out because
Mhm.
things happened
Mhm.
when you went there, especially with your intentions, depending on what your intentions were. and how you antagonized. Oh, and that witch, ooh, she's snappy. She is
She is
she is
snippy. She's mean.
she's a great insult comic, frankly.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah,
So
the
a
Bell Witch.
classic evil witch then.
But I would
Yeah.
also recommend the last podcast on the less version of it because they add a little bit of levity and stuff. It's still scary as
True.
hell.
They break it up
It's scary as
very
hell.
well.
But it's so like the way they do the voice of the Bell Witch is so great on that podcast. And so just go
Go watch it.
listen to
Yes.
that.
Go listen to it.
They're tons of fun. They're
Yeah.
a great little podcast. And like you said, I love because they talk about true crime, normal, super normal, like all of that stuff. So it's like
All the weird stuff.
but their personality does break it up. So it's not
Yeah.
all just heavy listening on
Yeah.
repeat.
And they're not like worshiping these guys. They're like
No,
they're
yeah,
bringing
They're
them
making
out for
fun of them.
the jerks and nerds and dumb A's that they are. You know?
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah. Stop making shows about Jeffrey Dahmer. Start making fun of Jeffrey Dahmer.
Exactly.
They have
Give us
great
some
Jeffrey Dahmer
great
episodes as well. So
They do.
Which I would recommend over the Netflix series.
Please stop.
Um,
I have not
making
watched.
shows
Everyone's
these
talking about the
people.
Netflix. I wanted to watch it because of knowing about it, but yeah, I've heard so many people say anyway.
We have a soapbox on turning real life into entertainment. Like
Yeah.
if there's 20 documentaries about it, watch that. Don't make a movie about it. Like
Exactly. Like you've heard my rant about Ted Bundy movies
Yeah,
so
like-
many times.
because that does borderline glorification. Like once you make it entertainment, because like we've talked about, we root for Freddy, we root for Jason, we come to really enjoy these characters, not because we think murder is right or good or fun, but it's one of those things, they become so interesting, they become the main character. And when you do that with real people that have done real bad things, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Like they are never meant to be anything other than the criminal and the villain and the just thing that should rot in prison, or in the ground, wherever they find themselves.
Just make it horrifying. Don't make it glamorous.
Exactly.
That's the thing. Is my thing, because like I will say, like I like Zodiac, fantastic film.
Mhm.
Very good.
I did like the shockingly vile whatever things.
Mhm.
I've only seen it once though, because it's hard. And also, don't cast these handsome people.
Please stop.
Right.
Stop casting
Stop with the
handsome
Zac Efron. I
Ted Bundy, I guess technically was like a handsome guy, because there were even women
of his
today
time.
when he was
He
on the
was
news.
70s
Like
handsome, yeah.
in his news, 70s
Right.
handsome is a genre for sure.
Right. That's when they thought Sean
I
Connery
saw
was
a
hot
man
too.
today at the grocery store that was 70s handsome, and I was like, "Wow, this is a."
Was it Ted Bundy?
It
I
was
hope
not Ted Bundy. No,
I hope
it was
not.
not Ted Bundy. Didn't try to get me into his VW Beetle or anything.
I think honestly, like, and without a lot of thought to it, like I do think Hill House is very much up there for me, the Netflix series.
Yes.
Because it's so, like, I really enjoy both House on Haunted Hill and the Haunting original ones, but
Not the remakes.
they're really good. But when it comes to the supernatural, when it comes to the acting, everything's just so much better in 2018. The series, not the year. And so like it is that when you think of a haunted house story, it does that. It does that very, very well. And so like, again, a bold claim, but I think we've made a case for how this story, both fictionally and creatively, has inspired so many other haunted house stories, haunted mansion stories, haunted blank place stories, because it's just so well done. Like there's just such a good source material to it, that it's a well that so many creatives can just keep going back to, and some have more success than others. But nonetheless, like, whether they did something great or not, the magic was done. They were inspired.
The Shining.
And
sorry.
I think that is, at the end of the day, what matters is, regardless of what they did with it, they were inspired.
Yeah.
And for someone who wrote 6 major novels and several short stories, to do that in the short time that they had a career and a life, that's kind of freaking inspiring and incredible in and of itself. Even if you don't like horror, I think that alone is like, holy cow, like that's the power someone just doing something can have creatively. And so I just think it's pretty awesome. And so
dope.
whether you check out a direct adaptation or whether you check out any of the other inspirations that have been mentioned, there's not too many horror movie haunted houses you can go wrong with.
It's true.
Except House 2 and House on Haunted Hill 1999, apparently.
Say the full name. House 2, the second story.
Because it is the greatest title of all time.
I've only ever seen the poster and stuff. And again, I've never seen these movies, but like I know
So
I remember House 2, second story. I was like,
There is
Way to
one
go.
particularly good poster that I think of, the one with the like
The
key
severed
thing.
hand.
Yeah.
It's
That's all I
like
can
on
think
the
of.
on the
That's all I
doorknob.
know of it.
I'd love to have that poster in our house.
But it's so easy to have a good poster in a bad movie, is all I'm saying.
It's got the boyfriend, not the boyfriend. It's got the dude from The Outsiders, the bad guy, as the protagonist.
It's got a lot of things. And it gives me a lot of feelings.
It sounds like me
Sleep
watching
Garrett was
Morbius.
that. Never mind.
But it's okay.
It's fine.
And so, considering you guys bombarded without him, and since Gerry's here, I feel like it's only appropriate. We don't usually use our clips because we always get so wrapped up in our conversation.
Bring him
So
in.
I figured I'd bring in the essence of Scotty J-Ro for the show as we wrap up.
You say Bombad!
With the Garfield phone and all.
So please do check out Bombad Cast. Gerry's a good little boy.
Scotty's there too.
And Scotty's there too. No, we love you both. And not
Love
just
you guys
because you
too.
have Boop on for the occasional spook.
We got to get you on sometime as well too. We got to make that happen finally and everything. But, like,
Let's do it. I'm so game. Anything to hang out
don't
with
quote me
you.
on that right now, but like
Obviously.
it's gonna happen.
Yes. I'm not
That's
going
Scotty, that's
anywhere.
how me hang up the phone. By the way, it's you stay Bombad.
Exactly. With just as much aggravation and slam.
Yeah.
He
He was sitting in what I can only describe as toilet posture. Is what I'm doing.
Yes, that,
I love
there's
him to
something
pieces,
about when
but
you do that roll.
that's
You don't
that-
turn or jostle. You like, yeah.
It's toilet posture. I sit in it all the time. I'm not trying to make like a stinky joke about.
Oh no,
Scotty.
we
I'm just-
we all have it once we've settled in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all have our toilet posture.
So the Bombad Cast.
Toilet posture.
If
Listen
you
to
want
it
more toilet
on-
posture, come
Listen
to
to it on the toilet. Whenever, wherever you like to Bombad is
one of the top
okay.
2 places people listen to it. Actually, is what I hear.
Yeah.
But also, other than just your podcast, Scotty Games, but you also tomorrow, I believe,
Yes.
have Hyper Focus going
Yes,
on,
I
right?
do.
One of the best shows of the week.
Yes, of the every other week. Actually,
Oh, yes.
And so
Who's your guest of this other week?
So this other week, which is tomorrow night, so I'm confusing the hell out of people. Depending on when you watch this or whatever, whenever it releases on, I guess, your audio feed, I will be having Nikki Kumar of the Imperial Senate podcast, a good friend of ours, friends of
Nikki,
shows, and all that kind of
Nikki
stuff.
boy.
Nikki, savior of mankind, fantastic individual.
Yeah. Lives at the
Um,
bottom of a trash can.
Oh yeah,
That's
we're
the
gonna
lore.
we're gonna have.
That's how we
him,
all met, really.
At the bottom of a trash can, yes.
Yeah, the bottom. We all met dumpster diving, frankly. But no, yeah, Nikki's gonna come on, and we haven't talked about what we're gonna talk about at all. And I think
Those are the best
I think I
ones.
asked, and he went, "Let's just riff." And so that's it. I've been getting a lot more of that recently. So apparently, people like it when we riff. So you know what? Come and hang out, and me and Nikki are going to talk about something, and you can call in at the end of the show from the live chat. We'll put a link in the chat,
Yes.
and you can join us on screen. And Boop, I know will be making an appearance
It's
if
true.
she can, because they have to ask Nikki the age-old question,
B question.
the B question.
The B
We have
question.
a spreadsheet to fill out. So,
I need
Yes.
to make sure.
much like a census taker.
Yeah.
Yep,
It
Nikki's
makes
on
me
here.
feel like someday Boop is gonna go around and force people to eat bees.
No.
I do. We've talked about our like toy mic interviews for Celebration one year. That needs to be a part of it. Absolutely. The big question.
Bee question
Absolutely.
is yeah, that's your
Clipboard
bread
and
and
all.
butter right there.
And just fill a jar with at least 3 bees and just raise it from the bottom of the thing. Just be like,
How many bees do you think you could eat?
Right.
You want to test it?
You want to prove it? Yeah. Do you value your teeth?
What if they were bees?
Yes. So check out Hyperfocus. If you're listening to this the day it goes out on Apple and Spoofy and all of that, then that's tonight. If you're listening to it after the fact, guess what? You can just go back to YouTube
Coming
and watch
out.
it again. Yeah, it's
great.
much more fun live, but you can watch it anytime. There's
I've
great,
heard still
past
fun after the
episodes.
fact.
It is
But-
still fun after the fact.
Oh,
Came
for
through.
sure, for sure.
I don't know
So
rewatchability of some of our stuff.
go love on our bomb bad boys. Jerry, thank you so
Whatever.
much for
Yeah.
joining.
It'll be
I
cool.
always love having you.
Well, I love just again being with you guys, you know, my fun family here and
Yeah.
stuff. It's great to be with the
Gross.
nerd herders.
We make it all fancy and call you guest and everything, but really
No.
we just hang out.
No.
It's true. We
On
call it a
camera.
sister
Seriously,
show.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
There are
So,
some people that exist in life who are just very enjoyable to watch hang out, and we are some of those people. And it's just it
Yes.
is what it is. I literally was told, me and my friends in college. Here's a little anecdote for you.
Here's a little
We were doing was quoting movies and Family Guy and stuff, right? And on a bus to like it was in college. We were on a bus going on a ski trip, like, you know, kind of a thing, because they treated it like high school. But anyway, the director of admissions was in front of us. I, known this lady my whole life, and then like again, I worked for her after I left school. But we're talking, and it's 5 hours, however long this bus ride is. She turns around at one point and just goes, "I have no clue what you boys are talking about, but I sure am enjoying it." So, I
stuff
took
like
that and was just like, I'm just going to talk.
That's my personality now.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate those that have joined and checked out and enjoyed this. Hopefully you have enjoyed and maybe you understood some of it. Again, check out, if you can read the book, but also check out the Netflix adaptation if you prefer to watch things. If you're looking for the next best thing to add to your streaming list, you just finished
Yeah.
House of the Dragon or Ring of Power or Ring of the Dragon Power or whatever thing is
You
happening.
just read Animorphs.
Read Animorphs though; those are amazing.
They are busted.
J-Dub, we're about to start an Animorphs podcast. We got to get
Oh,
off
dude,
this.
I'm so game. I used to check out those near exclusively in my library back in the day. Like they were amazing. I had so
Me
many
too.
of the toys. I am there. I love Animorphs.
There you go.
I actually
I had a
like,
Visser 3 figure.
I made a reference. There was a particularly looking man, and I was just like, oh man, he looks like he's mid Animorphs transformation.
I was there.
And
I saw the man.
And somebody's
Yeah.
like, what? And I'm like, how have you lived 30 some odd years and not heard of Animorphs?
Animorphs is coming back in a big way, and I think it's about to come back
Yes.
even bigger because I'm pretty sure there are rumblings of film adaptations and there
There
are
should
graphic
be.
novels being released, and they are
Yes.
fantastic. I just got the third one this last week. I need to finish it still.
Yeah,
But
I'm
anyway,
so there. First,
you
the
love
Animorphs,
Cronenberg body horror-
Bionicle.
Cronenberg body horror, child soldiers.
Mhm.
It's a lot. It is a
It's
lot
like
more than you
Stranger
think.
Things and meets The Fly meets
Yes.
You
meets The
can't let
Thing.
the Photoshop covers confuse you.
No,
Like,
when
don't-
it describes the Photoshop covers, you will want to throw up.
Yeah, you want to talk about real horror? That's what we're talking about right there is Animorphs.
Mhm.
Yes,
Someday that will happen though.
we need to talk
Oh,
about
absolutely.
that. I think there's many people whose ears have been tickled by that now.
Do
So
you have an
I just
episode on
found out
Animorphs?
Hyperfocus
I'm
stuff.
here. Okay.
if you're here, it's happening.
When you're here,
for
it's
you.
Animorphs.
When you're here, You're Animorphs.
When you're here, you're gonna get stuck as a hawk because you stayed in that form for too long. Sorry.
Should have fixed your face.
God,
So,
I want to talk about so much of that. Anyway.
Well,
steer the
next
ship.
week-
Steer the ship, Judd.
We no Animorphs, unfortunately, but we are talking Star Wars. Not a teaser for it
Yes.
because
It's
this
teasing
has
enough.
been hell week. I don't know what to tell you. I hope to get back to promos starting next week, but these
What are
last
we
couple of
talking
weeks have just
about?
been difficult. Next week we are talking about returning to our classic episode style and talking about our favorite Imperials.
Hey.
So we have a
I
lovely guest
totally was
joining
prepared
us.
for that.
And we're going to roundtable our top 3 Imperials, officers, soldiers, whatever have you. Anyone in the Imperial ranks is fair game, canon, legends, or fan fiction. There you go.
I
looking
mean,
Fast and
forward
loose, I
to
like
that.
it.
Yeah, all inclusive here, except for that one Raylo thing that's becoming a movie. But anyway,
we're not going to talk about that because you're going to make people mad.
well, if it's your thing, good for you. But for us, it's Imperials. There just something about the uniform gets me. Okay,
I know.
I don't agree with their morals, but I like their tailor.
You like Imperials and you like fighter pilots. That is your type.
Yep, something about a jumpsuit just jumps my suit.
Really gets you. Really gets you. Yeah. Really
Mustache
gets
jumps.
jump.
I was gonna say you add a mustache. Woo, you got
Woo.
me.
Woo!
I'm there.
Slap a mustache on that. Man. You and
and
Alex
so-
Damon. Two
I
peas in a
know.
pod.
Right. We have a type apparently.
I'm going to we're going to go to Atlanta at some point and you're going to move in with Alex and I'm just going to be alone.
Oh,
There's
my
gonna be them
goodness,
wearing fighter
no.
pilot helmets and fake mustaches all the time.
Exactly. Come ready next week to share your favorites, hear ours, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
We're saying goodbye to the spooky for now, but it's just intrinsically a part of us, so it will return.
Never
We've
leaves,
actually
lurks in
even-
the corners of your house all year.
Yeah,
round.
Exactly.
We've already talked
It's right
about a
back
few
there.
ideas for next year because that's where we're at. Like next year, is around the corner.
Good God.
And so we're planning amazing pods
Such
for
a
you.
dread.
Will they be amazing? I don't know, but
That's up to
we
you,
definitely
baby.
try. And thank you to our patrons that help us try. If you want to support us, there's a couple of ways you can do it. It's all in the description. And it's all fairly straightforward. If you listen to anything, if you watch a YouTube, you know the things, Patreon
Yeah.
and all that.
You get it.
Send our cat to college. So just check
Click
the
the
description for all.
bells.
Yeah,
Ring the
bells.
things.
Like,
Yes.
comment, survive. The
Subscribe
usual.
to the OnlyFans.
Right, the OnlyFans where it's just mustache pictures.
That's it.
Mustache pictures, yes. And then I'm gonna do the just toenail pics.
Yes,
Yes.
there you go.
know?
Just toenails, and sometimes
Just
just the toenail, not even
Collected.
like just a solo toenail.
What did we say last night? It was like it's not even like ours. Like they're all
Exactly.
found, reclaimed
clippings.
toenails.
Yes, found this at the local McDonald's.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
Tasted briefly of mac sauce.
Oh my goodness. So
Anyway,
looking forward to next week. In the meantime, before this gets any more off the rails, check out Hill House
yeah.
in many of its forms. Just get spooky with it while there's still time in this holy month. And until next week, stay spooky.
Stay spooky.
Wait a minute. You know, this is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.